Welcome to TradeTheNBA.com. This is Jonas Reporters for the 26th of August, and we had a little continuation fade off the bigger up run. And magenta still over yellow, but soft. I mean, we're right at the 25 length, and this is just there's no strength behind any of the conviction that's going on right now because the uncertainty is bound. Tariffs are still there. Is inflation coming? The Fed says it's coming. They don't want to do anything. Trump fired a Fed member today for potential malfeasance, whatever you want to call, you know, multiple primary residence. It's relative, but I think that him getting rid of this person is just his way of wanting to shape the Fed because he knows Powell's going to be gone soon, and yeah, pretty much the way they do things is a disaster. It always has been. So, from an NQ standpoint, you can see that it's still pretty close to that 76% line, but now you're no longer looking at a reset of the steel. You're back above cyan, so it's problematic. You really need to see that green over red and literally moving above the 7.5 range. So shakeout's headed in the right direction, but the bigger problem is if it gets positive, it better stay positive, and then you've got to take out the previous high here, which was 1250-ish. Yeah, 1193, 1250 was the peak value there. So you got to get there. And if you don't, then you lack congruency. And if you make, especially make a new high and you don't get there, uh, those are beautiful short divergences. Treasury's going nowhere fast. Nobody knows what to do with that. Oil creeping up, still not very much. This really depends on the back and forth crude draws versus production. We've had some pretty decent draws down. So the question then becomes, is that activity or is it just production? Going to get debated back and forth and whether or not Russia's supplies are hampered, which I think is probably leading to most of the increase because they have been with the drone attacks, and whether Ukraine steps that up or not, it becomes relevant. The euro, they had the massive rise, massive decline. It's all a joke. It's all relative to the U.S., but the eurozone is in really bad shape. And from a gold standpoint, slight uptick simply for the same thing with oil, sort of just tracking what that oil bars look like for good reason. And Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin suffering from the big whale who was silent since 2011, decided to flip several $billion into separate wallets and went heavy into ETH. So just a transfer, selling the Bitcoin, which got bought up by Strategy. And you can see that was the back and forth play within ETH, buying into that position. So um, just a stakeholder moving from one asset to another, but one could call it diversification, having everything tied up into the Bitcoin as it was and immobile for over a decade. Uh, yeah, might as well spend those billions somewhere. It was only a few hundred million into the ETH. From the 50K, where we sold out, yeah, that weakness below the 25 and that continued. It's just pretty much soft, nothing. It had magenta lead for a little bit. NBI white spiked above it, and love that when it crosses back below under the 25. You know that that is perennial weakness, and you're expecting your support levels to break at that stage. 50% level is where you're looking for. Well, it did do that. So, and that's fitting because it covers all the positive extremes, except for this primary one, which takes us down to 64.14 range. So that's the only one left in there, and still had the positive move with the MBI Magenta still leading slightly. And then from a 5-minute chart standpoint, you can see that by midday, yeah, everything went to sell mode, and that just flipped option plays, and so you just took all your call buyers, wiped them out. Now you got all these put buyers, which means you're going to have a rally come in at some point midweek. Let me get this to slide over. We can see this the Asia session. And right now in the European, it's starting to build back some strength. No major news would be good news, and that would just keep things pretty much flat. That's the long and short of it. As always, anything relevant, I'll put it on the team channel. Have a good one.